Friend or foe? Dare looked out onto the southeastern coast in awe. He had never seen the sea, and its raw power fascinated him in a way few things could. The sun was setting behind him, holding its lasting gaze at an uncomfortable angle for anyone who had to look west. The land at his back was flat, sandy, and mainly barren. A horrid place to attempt to hide, especially when he was in one of the only trees around, and had a sideline for almost anything in any direction. It had been a week since his stay with the travelling caravan, and after a night filled with the wild trill of madly played instruments, fueled by wine-soaked voices and hands, sleep had been light, and he had been quickly expelled just before sunrise, with an ungentle awakening by Gribe, who still seemed partially inebriated from the previous night. Soon after, he quickly learned that the open grasslands were dangerous at night, though, thanks to some carefully placed magics, he was able to ensure he was left alone each time he rested, albeit with a few close calls. The monotonous crashing of the deep sapphire waves against the shore made him drowsy, and he struggled continuously against it to maintain his vigil as his long dark hair flowed around him in the sea breeze, similar to a current of shadow coiling around an underwater pillar. He turned, looking for any change in the environment behind him. Light brown dirt and sand stretched out before him, ending with a rise of mountains far off in the distance, giving the appearance of a rising spine-like fin from the back of a large fish. A figure suddenly appeared, after a short period, far off, barely a speck within the heat waves rising from the baked soil. But thanks to his keen eyesight, he could pick it out from the distortion, squinting and praying it wasn't one of those naggers that the leader of the travellers had mentioned. A few more figures appeared soon after, a group of 4. One seemed larger than the rest, a hulking figure standing a good foot at least above the others. The new group disappeared behind a small dip in the earth, and a while passed before 3 of them emerged again into his sightline. It was starting to become dark, however, which helped his sight greatly when it became actual night, but with the heat distortion still in effect in the distance, plus the changing from light to dark, Dare had to squint even harder to try and keep track of the group. "Where did the 4th one go?" he muttered, scanning the horizon for the missing person. As he searched the dunes around the group, struggling to discern any other figures, a boom suddenly echoed across the landscape, startling him. He tried to find its source, but his only conclusion was that one of the 3 figures had created it. Maybe as a distraction? He wasn't sure. A dust trail suddenly kicked up, closer than he imagined that it could have been without him noticing. It flew towards him like an arrow, and before he could react a flash appeared in his vision, and both his arms were pinned to the branches of the tree with 2 curved blades, piercing his leather pauldrons. With a blur, the source of the dust and his restraints revealed herself before him as a human. She wore light and frankly semi-revealing clothes, covering only her chest and waist to knees. Her skin was bronzed heavily from the sun, and her hair, which at some point would have been a beautiful chestnut brown, was now ragged and sand-covered from her journeys. She flicked her blue eyes over him, checking for any obvious weaponry, before calling out, "Why are you watching us? What do you want?" She moved with amazing grace, every step an art form, as the woman closed distance with Dare's tree. As she did, he noticed that strangely, she wore no shoes either. He spied a strange crescent blade swinging from her hip with a cord, tying it to her attire. "Answer me, or I swear I'll de-man you where you hang. I'm in no mood for wasting my time." Deciding he had better start talking, he answered her, "My name is Dare. I'm looking for a group of mages who are running from the damned queen." He had to restrain himself from adding, "Please don't hurt me," to the end of his sentence. This woman was no normal person to have as an enemy. That much was clear. Her fluid movement and short temper aided towards an impressively deterring visage. "And why are you looking for them? To turn them in?" Her hand moved ever so slightly towards the strange blade as she asked. "No, I would never turn in any mages to that wretched woman." She squinted slightly, not trusting him before turning away. "You will stay here. Do not try to break free. I will be back." She disappeared in a blur, before Dare could say anything. "Guess I'm going to have to wait then." 3 whole hours passed before the small group came close. Dare had almost fallen asleep, waiting with the sound of the crashing waves constantly booming in his ears. It was night. Stars littered the sky as if a child had spilt a bag of diamonds across the heavens. The group approached slowly, warily, clearly expecting a trap, but after a good few minutes they lost their wariness somewhat. The woman stepped forward again, looking even more mysterious in the dusk of night. I see you stayed. Foolish of you if you were an enemy, but maybe that's why you did it. If you would let me explain myself, then maybe you would understand why I'm here, he answered. But the woman cut him off. To help us. That's what you said. But help us from what? How do you know we need help? Dare scowled, annoyed at how she jumped straight into believing he was an enemy, before even giving him a chance. An older man stepped forward, looking haggard and tired, with a great gleam in his eye. Calm down, Tanit. He's hardly a threat at the moment, and if it was a trap, I believe it was sprung by now. Are you a mage? He directed the question to Dare, who nodded slowly. Then, of what magical descent are you from, may I ask? Dare thought for a moment, then asked, Do you really want to know? And if you do, you won't attack me directly. If you mean us no harm, we have no reason to attack you. But be aware, we have no love for the Queen. I'll tell you that now before we even think of freeing you, and so that you are aware of it. Very well. My name is Dare. As for the Queen, I hate her as much as anyone else, who has been hunted by her minions. In terms of my magic, well, it's Tenebrae. They all took a step back, even Tanit. Then the hulking humanoid who Dare had spotted before stepped forward and spoke in a thick, deep voice.
I thought you smelled strange, but I also do not believe you. Tenebrae has few, if any, mages. This is common knowledge, even for me. It is even rarer for one to reveal themselves so brazenly.
Dare smiled, then vanished in a puff of shadow, reappearing behind them with his grimoire revealed. Well, see me as one of a kind then. I mean you no harm either. If you do not still believe me, then look upon my grimoire and believe that. He barely finished his sentence before Tanit blurred behind him, her crescent blade at his throat. The other three turned, a shocked look on their faces.
How did you do that? Those blades should nullify your magic,
the older man asked. You left me for 3 hours with blades that you have designed to nullify any magic you know of, but you didn't consider Tenebrae. Because it's something people don't have? No offense, but that's pretty short-sighted. I broke out of those bindings within a few seconds of this woman leaving. On the topic of magic, however, what on earth is yours? That stuff is crazy, he asked Tanit as she pressed the blade slightly tighter to his throat. The older man gestured for the woman to calm down, and after a few moments, she removed the blade from his throat and walked back to the group before answering. I am a monk of Motus. We follow the art of movement and speed. Normally we refrain from violence, but recently I have been provoked heavily. The woman almost sneered when she ended her statement, showing that maybe she didn't mind being provoked. Stay clear of Tanit, noted, Dare thought, as the older man spoke up.
I am Vitius. We normally study the use of magical crystals in the attempt to find a way to store massive amounts of energy in smaller gems, though we can choose to be deadly if the need arises.
Dare's stab at the man's short-sightedness seemed to be completely ignored by the Vitius, which made Dare more appreciative of his presence. Someone who can take criticism and not bat an eye is either aware that it can be constructive, or they are a formidable verbal jouster. I like him. Dare smiled wide and reached her hand out to the old man. You would love my house then, filled with rows upon rows of crystals below it.
Really?
The man's interest seemed piqued.
And pray tell, where's your home, may I see?
Excitable through passion. Interesting. Perhaps in time. If you were to join me, you would have to trust me, and I trust you. It would be in both our interests. I think it would be best to get to know each other before you or I make a decision.
Of course. Those who speak the truth. I'd be highly interested. Oh, I'm sorry. I did not introduce myself. My name is Emma.
They shook hands again before another male stepped forward. He had a quiet smoothness to his step, the clear show of a hunter, and his arms were heavy with toned muscle. I am Tashka of Alatus Bowuser. A man of few words. It seems that was all he wished to reveal himself, though he still shook Dare's hand. A bow user? Well, if, and I hope we do become friendly, maybe you could help me with the use of a bow. Tashka got a humorous gleam in his eye. An elf that cannot use a bow, that is a rarity. You become ever more interesting and mystical with each claim you make, Dare. Dare blushed slightly, embarrassed at the man's statement, then turned to the hulking figure who had stayed quiet throughout the introductions. He was a mountain of muscle and fur, looking more like a bear than a human. Dare reached his hand out in greeting, but he didn't offer it back.
This is Avior. From what we could tell, he doesn't talk much,
Emma interjected, as Dare lowered his hand. Avior grunted, rising to his full height of nearly 9 feet, and stared down at Dare with menacing eyes.
If you must know, I am a bestia. though not like those peaceable fools who live in sanctuaries. I am a beast.
He slapped his chest with his fist heavily, punctuating his claim and causing a ripple of flesh to form across his breast from the blow. His voice was strong, as if a rock slide was rumbling down a mountain, signaling imminent danger if you took the conversation down the wrong path and the boulders found a reason to land on you. Dare smiled back at the tower of a man and re-extended his hand towards him. Whatever magic you are, where I come from, if you hate the Queen, you are fully welcome. Avior lifted his paw of a hand up and gripped Dare's heavily, almost crushing it as a grin spread across his face, showing a mouth filled with fangs.
I like you, Elf. Not many could ever look me in the eye and shake my hand.
Standoffish, but reasonable, same as most of the others. They do seem worn, though. How long have they been travelling?
So, dear, you have a home nearby?
Emma asked, clearly still interested at the elf's previous point about his home. Not nearby, a mountain to the northwest of here. It's a good few weeks' journey, but there is my home. Well hidden, food stocked, and with many other refugees from this damnable war. If you want, that can be your new destination, and while we are making our way there, you can decide whether you wish to continue with me, or choose your own path. Tanit still didn't look convinced, and Tashka leant down and whispered something into Emma's ear. There is one thing I want to know. How did you know we needed help? Tanit asked, hand still on her blade. Dare paused, taken aback by the question before deciding to answer. I got a tip from a friend of mine. If she wishes, then when you arrive at my home you can see her, but be aware that will be extremely unlikely occurrence. She did say, however, the Soul was hunting you. Have you given them the slip? She? I do not like the fact that you won't identify this person who tipped you to our location. It so happens that our pursuer is female, so I'll say you aren't working with her. Dare didn't really have an answer for Tanit as she gripped her blade's handle angrily, till he sputtered out a response. I very much doubt that we are talking of the same people. The person who helped me is much more of an ancient being than your pursuer is, I hope. The four of them glanced around at each other warily. Well, it seems we are at a crossroads. Do we trust you or ignore your offer of safety? As for our pursuer, we would rather not say that we have lost her in case they return with that accursed creature in tow. It damaged my bow and the rest of us can't easily defend against it, replied Tashka. I think for now we have little choice but to move either way. Whether we trust Dare or not, he has given us an enticing offer, and we have no direct reason to distrust him. We shall travel together for a time, I say, and see what happens. However, he will be watched closely. How's that? The hunter finished, earning a spatter of nods from the others, after short and private conversation. Wow, they are wary. Whoever is chasing them clearly has left some scars in their sense of survival, Dare thought. Well, it seems it would be best for us to keep moving then, commented Dare after a short duration of them conversing amongst themselves.
Agreed. Onward to your home, dear. I am eager to see this collection of yours.
Emma clapped him on the back, though the others didn't seem as eager to follow. They trailed behind as the old Vitreous peppered him with questions about the crystals while they walked, Tanit eyeing the land behind them as night closed in further.